What's cracking, ladies and gentlemen? 49 coming out, another community shoutcast for the OUSA Dota League Season 2. We're loading into game number 2 of NLC Vikings up against eSnug. eSnug were able to take a very convincing game number 1. It was actually very close, a lot of back and forth action, just because either team, if they were able to win a fight in the later stage of the game, could decisively secure racks and end the game there and then. As eSnug, they had the advantage of having that core position tiny. The one position tiny was obscenely stacked, had the Assault Cuirass as well as Manstyle and the BKB up with the Agnum Scepter, so he could set up clear down towers very quickly, whereas NLC, they had a lot of pushing power in the basis of the Shadow Shaman, the Mass Serpent Wards, as well as a Yal over on the Razor, so the Razor, the Agnum Scepter upgrade, and so if they were able to take a fight, they should have been able to take a set of racks and maybe turn the game around, but unfortunately, the good execution coming out from eSnug was Brightside New Zealand was able to catch up too, with a reverse polarity into the Skewer, and then Captain Taichu on the mid position, skirmishes mage for the Mystic Flare, especially with the Agnum Scepter, Mystic Flare can immediately clear out 2 heroes. Lycanthrope and Doombringer being banned out by the boys from eSnug. They do have first picks, so it'll be interesting to see what hero does make it through the first banning stage. NLC banning out the Tinker just because it's Brightside New Zealand, his signature hero, as well as the fact that eSnug also has the Radiant Tide advantage. And so it will be interesting to see what heroes decide to ban out next. I believe Tidehunter was banned out as a secondary ban coming up from one of the teams. And so that did leave the Batrider in the pool. Batrider can be picked up by Captain Taichu, who's actually been able to show it off in the past. Was able to pick up a 9-minute Blink Dagger in their series up against THO. Was one of the reasons why they were able to drag the game out as long as they did. Instead, Batrider's been banned out, so Tidehunter is now in the pool, as well as the Faceless, Void, Skirmishes Mage, and the Shadow Shaman. So these 4 heroes are usually picked up very early on because they're so powerful and so versatile. Brewmaster being picked up by eSnug. I actually haven't seen a Brewmaster being played by them so far, and not too sure who will be playing that Brewmaster. It could be Captain Taichu or it could be Brightside. Those 2 players seem to be interchangeable in what they do in the off lane or in the mid lane. And NLC now deciding to pick up their first and second pick. Probably going to be going with the Shadow Shaman pickup again, especially since he's in the pool. NLC really seem to love the macro advantage you get from the Shadow Shaman in the sense that even if the Shadow Shaman isn't able to accomplish much in the lane stage, even if he isn't able to set up kills, just with the Mass Serpent Wards, you can push towers down every time you win a fight, or even if you don't win a fight, you drop the Mass Serpent Wards to force a fight. And so Shadow Shaman, we could even be seeing the Earthstriker being picked up once again for NLC Vikings. So it will be interesting to see if they're able to adjust their strategy after what happened in game number 1. Since eSnug were able to counteract their death wall by finding a lot of experience up on their core heroes, as well as on their support, Spooky Scary Skeleton was actually able to get Arcane Blink faster than the core position Brewmaster, but they go for the Faceless Void, so they're sticking with something that's a bit more concurrent with the meta game, since you have the Faceless Void in the off lane, and the Chronosphere helps set up the Mass Serpent Wards to deal a huge amount of damage. And so the Faceless Void is a very powerful off lane hero, and that's because he's so difficult to deal with, especially with the fact that Time Walk's been buffed, it only costs 90 mana. And with the fact that Time Lock, if you land it in the Chronosphere, does double damage. And so he doesn't even have to build any damage items in the early stage of the game. You can just build attack speed, and if you max the Time Lock, the instant you hit level 6, level 7, if you're alone with the hero, you just Chronosphere and just beat them down. If you went for the max Time Lock build. Otherwise, you could just use them to help set up the rest of your team. So if you've got, for instance, a Mirana, you can arrow as the Chronosphere ends. Or you could even arrow into the Chronosphere if you want to ensure the kill on the target very quickly on. If you have an Invoker, you could drop a Sunstrike from halfway across the map. But Mirana being picked up by eSnug, we have been seeing a core position Mirana being played by THO, the Heroes of Old. And that's only because Feral, their drafter and their captain, really likes the Mirana in the offlane. Mirana in the offlane has fallen off in terms of relevancy in the current metagame, because compared to other offlane heroes, she can't contest CS because she has such low base damage, and so you usually see Mirana run either as a safe lane farmer, because with the movement speed from Leap and the attack speed, Mirana actually is a fairly effective core position hero. The only drawback is she needs a lot of farm to be effective. You have to always operate with a 1-item advantage, but with how useful she is with her other spells, if you're able to secure kills and end the game fairly early on, Mirana can be a very powerful core position hero. Otherwise, you see her as a support hero. And so we have the immediate Bane Elemental ban coming up from NLC. They're choosing not to ban out Shadow Demon. They could also choose to ban out the Shadow Demon, but the drawback with the Shadow Demon runner support duo is it needs a fair amount of practice and execution. If you're not able to time your arrow perfectly with the Shadow Demon Disruption, then a lot of heroes, like for instance the Faceless Void, can time walk out. Shadow Shaman, if it's later on to the game, he drops his Mass Serpent Wards before he dies, so he's not really too fussed. Razor instead being banned out. And so the Bane Elemental Mirana combo, while it is a lot more reliable, does take a lot more effort and a lot more practice to be able to execute effectively. So while it is good on paper, if your team can't do it, there's no point in drafting it. And so Venomancer as well as Viper, so the Venomous V duo being banned out by eSnug. They don't want to deal with the Viper because of how powerful he is in the 1v1 matchup, especially against a hero like a Brewmaster that has to get a very early Arcane Boots and a very early Blink Dagger to really be relevant. As when you pick up a Brewmaster, you've got 35 minutes to be able to end the game as quickly as possible. So you have to be able to take these decisive fights, and so Brewmaster has to have a good early game. It's the reason why, while you can run Brewmaster as an offlane hero, he is not able to reach the full potential because he has to get the Blink Dagger to be relevant. You need to get that Blink Dagger so you can get a Blink clap and then split. If you split without clapping, then the enemy heroes can simply run away, so it makes it very difficult for you to be a Boulder Toss and Cyclone at the same time, since you want to immediately Boulder Toss one priority target that you want to focus fire, then you want to Cyclone the hero that can save him. So for instance, if there's a Dazzle, you Cyclone up the Dazzle, or if there's a Faceless Void, you Cyclone up the Faceless Void so he can't defensive chrono. And so you need the clap movement standard to help that out, especially since the Broodlings actually aren't very fast. And later on in the game, the later the game goes, the more powerful the enemy heroes become, the more easy it is for them to be to kill those Broodlings. The Earth Spirit, Earth Panda with 3k HP might seem a bit intimidating at first, but once your Faceless Void gets incredibly stacked, once he picks up something like a Daedalus, if he's going for that physical damage route, you can just stand his ground and smack down the Earth Panda before he can really do much. So they go for Shadow Shaman and Lich, two very powerful support heroes that work very well with the Faceless Void. Together as a support duo, they're not too bad. Lich gives you the macro advantage of the EXP from the sacrifice, so he's able to deny EXP while providing EXP to your supports, which is very critical. And aggressively, you could use the Frost Blast from the Lich to set up the Shadow Shaman Shackle, and then Lich right clicks fairly hard, and he's got good movement speed and good attack speed, so you can get enough right clicks in between the two of you with the Ether Shock as well, that you should be able to clean up a hero if you rotate as a duo. But they're going for, eSnug's going for the Bane, the Shadow Demon as well as the Mirana. So it's the tried and tested combo, Disrupt, Soul Catcher into Arrow. If you land it, they're dead. Very few heroes can survive that combo, especially with the Soul Catcher on top of it. Since Arrow, if you're going to be playing a support position in Mirana, you always max out the Arrow, just because it's a lot more mana efficient than maxing out the Starstorm. If you're playing a core position in Mirana, you could opt for 2 points in the Arrow if you're fairly confident in your ability to land the Arrow. It's a lot more efficient than 2 points up in the Starstorm. But eSnug going for a Naga Siren pickup right after the Death Prophet. Very interesting decision making coming up from that draft at Brightside, New Zealand. Because Naga Siren, she is incredibly powerful if you're able to get the Radiance up in a timely manner. Because it gives you can farm every single lane at once and the jungle. Very few heroes can do that. The only other hero that comes close is the Tinker or maybe the Nature's Prophet. Naga Siren can do that, and if you're good enough with your micro, and if your illusion get fed enough, they could just pretty much win the game on your own. You could drag it out for as long as possible. You could pull some Titan Miracle level Naga Siren, but the drawback to the Naga Siren is like any other Radiance carrier, with the exception of the Spectre and the Lone Druid, is your Radiance is going to be a farming item. You can't pick up a Radiance and say, hey guys, this group up is 5 and fight. You don't pick up a Radiance and say, I could go gank heroes now. You pick up a Radiance and say, oh goody, now I can farm for 10 more minutes, I could just farm a lot faster. Whereas the Lone Druid and the Spectre, once they pick up a Radiance, they can immediately go into these 5-man engagements, and they can tear things up. The Spectre, he can activate the Haunt. Looks like I've actually got the overlay up once again. I am an absolute retard. I'll have to actually re-record this at some point, but hopefully it's a lot earlier on this time. At least it wasn't 20 minutes into the game. So cheers for Henry for spawning that out. Puck, the final ban coming up from NLC, but the advantage on the Naga Siren is if you are able to hold the line for the first 20 minutes, if Brightside New Zealand, who's going to be playing that Naga Siren, is able to get a good start off, then you're able to drag the game out, and you have an insane amount of teamfight power coming out from Naga Siren. So you use the sleep to set everybody else out. Sleep into Arrow, so it means the Shadow Demon doesn't have to use disruption. It means you could use a defensive disruption, or you could disrupt another offensive hero. But NLC, they've got a much more relevant mid-game lineup. Death Prophet is absolutely terrifying once he has Exorcism, especially once he gets Exorcism level 2. Faceless Void, once he hits level 6, he power spikes. And so you can use it to help set up kills for the rest of your team by using the Chronosphere. And the Shadow Shaman, every time wards are up, you should be able to take a tower. Or you either take a kill or you take a tower. Or if you're lucky, you could even take both. So it makes it very difficult for the enemy team to be able to buy time for the Naga Sirens. So you have to hold the line for the first 20 minutes, and then you can maybe look to be able to turn things around. And so 5th pick coming up from NLC, the Puck ban, very surprising. So the Puck ban is simply to counteract the Death Prophet. Templar Assassin still is in the pool. And so we could be seeing an off-lane Brewmaster and the safe lane Naga Siren. The Puck works well against the Death Prophet because if you quick with your fingers and your reflexes, you could dodge the Crypt Swarm. If you dodge the Crypt Swarm, you beat the Death Prophet mid. Death Prophet is 90% Crypt Swarm in the mid lane. Her animation isn't the greatest because she has such a huge front swing, and so it's very difficult to out-CS a hero that has the same damage or even higher damage than you. Luna being picked up by NLC, so they want to play this early to mid-game 5-man Death Ball. And Luna is one of the best heroes to do it for. And they're going for a Riki Miru. So Riki Miru is a hero that we actually haven't seen at all so far in the ODL2. It's an insanely powerful hero if he gets a very early Diffusal Blade. That's the one caveat. If you don't get a very early Diffusal Blade, Riki Miru tapers off in effectiveness very quickly. But if you could get, say, an 11-12 minute Diffusal Blade, the game is yours. So long as you don't screw it up somehow, you could out DPS every other carry hero in the game. If you catch a hero on their own with the smoke screen and with the Diffusal Blade you go for kills, Or you could go for the Merlini build. He actually doesn't like the Fusel Blade and the Riki Maru. He actually likes early Yasha with the Orb of Venom. And then maybe pick up something like a BKB. And his point is the Fusel Blade, it gives you an insane amount of killing power, but it doesn't really synergize too well with the rest of the hero, because you can't fight as 5 because enemy team can still focus fire you down. It gives you pick-off power and ganking power, but it doesn't really give you much relevancy once you start to lose charges, or if you don't get it fast enough. So it's a snowball item and you have to snowball with it. And so both builds for the Riki Maru are fairly relevant. Personally, the Fusel Blade, if you can pick it up very early on, especially against teams that aren't able to coordinate effectively, you can completely destroy them and end the game on your own. However, that being said, the Orb of Venom's Yasha build is a lot more conservative. It builds better into the later stages of the game. And Manta style on the Riki Maru isn't too bad. I believe the illusions do actually propagate backstab. Just gonna take a quick drink of water while we pause.
Thank you.
So NLC Vikings, gonna choose to play from that team. Y'all gonna be in the mid lane as the Death Prophet. So he's been kicked off that one position. Looks like Gregor, he's sick of playing Earthshaker. He's now going to be that one position Luna, so he's running into the safe lane. And it looks like Insano is actually running to the mid lane, so he decides to clash tri-lane with the Ghost over, once again, the Shadow Shaman, as well as Viking going to be on the Lich. With the Death Prophet running to the mid lane. Actually, never mind Insano, he's changed his mind. He's running back into the fountain. So it'll be interesting to see what they decide to do with their lanes. Over in the off lane, we actually have Caesar Cheese from eSnug. I don't think he was in the first game. He's going to be playing the Brewmaster. So we're going to be seeing off-lane Brewmaster and then mid-Naga Siren played by Brightside New Zealand. He's actually starting very shy with gold. He's actually holding on to as much gold as possible. Just got 2 tangos pulled to him as well as the Stout Shield. Tiggle Biddy's rotating to the top lane over in that Shadow Demon. And Spooky Scary Skeleton going to be that 4-position Mirana. Looks like for the shout out. And Captain Taichu actually looks like they're starting to clash tri-lane. And looks like Captain Touch is going to be left alone as a solo off-lane Riki Maru, but if he's against the Faceless Void, he actually should be doing very well. The reason why Riki Maru does so well against the Faceless Void is because the backstab now works and denies. And backstab is obscenely powerful in the Riki Maru. We've actually got a lot of trash talk coming out from Yal. Doesn't actually like the Death Prophet that he's playing. And so because it works and denies, you can actually use it to out-CS and out-deny the Faceless Void. The only issue is Faceless Void, at level 1, he's got the best base stats in the game. 64 to 70 base damage, just with the GG branch as well as the Slippers of Agility. And so with the Poor Man Shield, it goes up to 69 base damage. Whereas Captain Taichu with the Poor Man Shield, only 56. But against a Faceless Void, you usually want to hold onto your skill point. Most of the time, it's usually smoke screen at 1 or blink. If you get caught out position, you can immediately blink yourself to a creep or an allied hero. But against the Faceless Void, you usually want to go for backstab at 1, because that gives you enough base damage to be able to compete for CS against them. Actually gives you just enough base damage to be able to out CS them. And so because it now works and denies as well, and with that Poor Man Shield, you can stand your ground and trade a few blows. But Faceless Void, he's got about 130 more HP than you do. And Tiggle, Biddy, and Spooky Scary Skeleton, they might be rotating to the bottom lane. And it looks like they're going to set up First Blood for Brightside New Zealand, who's been holding on to his skill points. If they're able to land the arrow, he probably wants to go for the Riptide, since Riptide at 1 usually is the conventional Naga Siren build to ensure that you can get a very fast bottle. Very interesting to note that he has chosen to start with the Stealth Shield. Mid Naga Siren usually starts with 2 GG branches, and then gets pulled tangos or picks up his own tangos to ensure he can get an early bottle. You don't really need the Stealth Shield. But it looks like they're going to go on NLC Viking instead. Arrow's going to fly out. We've actually got a tactical pause coming up from Insano, who claims lag, but I call puppy pause. And so does the rest of eSnug. But this looks like it should be able to set up for the arrow coming up from Spooky Scary Skeleton, who waited to ensure that it was going to fly out. And it looks like his teammates are even calling it out. As Gregor calls out Declan, who I believe is Insano for calling it out. And Viking, he's completely boned. The arrow should be able to latch, and with the Riptide up on Naga Siren, of course the arrow misses. That'll be very embarrassing. Actually, the arrow just barely latches, and there we go. Viking, he just wanted to get a ward off. And it looks like he actually did get the ward off, so a ward for First Blood over on Brightside. He's got a 40-second bottle up on him, and things are looking grim. Captain Taichu over the bottom lane is actually out-CSing Insano. So Insano, despite having superior base damage, with that early point up the backstab, Captain Taichu is actually able to get that CS advantage. So Insano, skilling up Time Lock at 1. Time Walk, sorry. Since Time Lock, it's not as reliable as the backstab. And so the Riki Maru actually works as a fantastic counterpick to the Faceless Void in the laning stage. So good recognition coming out from eSnug, playing something a little bit unconventional, something that teams aren't perhaps used to. And Jarl takes a lot of damage. It looks like that wasn't even an arrow as well. The arrow actually just flew out now and hits a creep. So it looks like Brightside New Zealand playing very far forward, using that Riptide, able to get a lot of damage on Yell. And when your Death Prophet isn't able to do well in the mid lane, even though he's beating him CS, he's got to play very careful. Brightside New Zealand, if he ever slips up, an arrow can fly out. As it looks like Spooky Scary Skeleton still hanging around the mid lane for a little bit longer. And looks like the Shadow Demon actually rotated all the way back out. Yell eats a Riptide. He actually could be taken forward. Doesn't have boots. Brightside, Naga on 320 movement speed. Should actually be able to slice him down. Gets in range for one more right click. But the Witchcraft turns out to be OP. He's able to just barely limp himself back to safety. But he's actually rotated all the way back to the fountain. Looks like he's going to be couriering Brightside New Zealand's bottle over to him. And looks like the Dire Side courier also took a fall. So things are taking a bit of a nosedive. 1,500 gold lead in favor of eSnug. And the game's only 2 minutes into session. So Taichu, shooting the max of the backstabs, is conventional, but he turns around, wants to get backstabs in on Sano to be able to deal as much damage as possible. And Sano, he doesn't want to deal with that smokescreen. Bit of a mistimed smokescreen, probably want to aim it a bit further up, and now the time locks are coming in. And Taichu, while he does have the poor man shield, Void hurts like hell, especially if he gets a lucky time lock in. The time lock is magic damage. But Captain Taichu over in the safe lane should be having a fairly easy time. He's really leading the CS scoreboards. Looks like Naga Brightside, despite doing so well against Yal in terms of damage, he's still getting out CS. He actually opted for an early point in the ensnare, and that's the reason why Spooky Scary Skeleton comes in from the left flank, catches him out the arrow, and Brightside New Zealand picks up another kill. 1,000 gold up on him. 1,000 of your kind have fallen before him, and he's building towards that Sacred Relic as soon as possible. He might even decide to skip boots and pick up that relic ASAP. A double damage room being bottled up by Brightside New Zealand. So Yal, he's going to be incredibly careful. He can't expose himself again since the negative armor from the Riptide. Looks like Void has disconnected, so we are having some internet issues. Looks like I'm having a few over on my end as well. Looks like the stream is down on my end, so not too sure what the internet issues are. His own teammates are blaming him, calling RQ. So say what you want about NLC Viking, they at least are having fun with their game. I believe Gregor might be from the Philippines. He mentioned something about Pinoys being absolute bros. So it looks like they've got wooden internet as well as wooden computers. These things do happen. Faceless Void has reconnected back into the game, but he's only got 1 CS compared to 15 for 8 on Taichu. Taichu is straight up styling over Insano. John saying we feed the chicken. So Captain Taichu with boots, maybe Orb of Venom up as well. Yeah, there we go. The Orb of Venom. Orb of Venom and Poor Man's Shield is a fantastic duo when you're playing 1v1, especially against a melee hero, because it lets you trade hits like nothing else. And Insano, he called out the smoke screen. He's now forced to reveal his back. Captain Taichu, he's stabbing him in the ass. He's dealing a huge amount of damage, forces out the time walk. And Captain Taichu is able to CS to his heart's delight while Insano's zoned down the lane. And the top lane, NLC Viking able to recover with the sacrifice. Luna actually opted for a second point in the Lucent Beam as opposed to a second point in the Lunar Blessing. You usually see 2 points in the Lunar Blessing ASAP with just 1 point in the Lunar Beam to be able to set up kills at level 2. But that being said, there's nothing wrong with the second point in the Lunar Beam as well, especially if you decide to play a lot more aggressively. It gives you a lot more burst damage. But the Luna, while she used to be the most popular and most powerful tri-lane carry, because you can play hyper aggressive with the Luna. You can use the Lunar Beam to set up for the rest of your teammates. So you throw out the Lunar Beam for that 0.6 second stun, as well as that initial burst damage. Since it has such a low cooldown and such a high range, you can usually get 2 off in the gang. So you use the first one to set up, your teammates run, and Brightside New Zealand stands his ground. That Stout Shield playing dividends. Throws out the Riptide and takes like a good chunk of Yal's life. And then your teammates are able to follow up with their abilities. So for instance, if you have a Shadow Shaman, since you have, in this case, Lunar Beam, Ghost runs in, throws out the Shackle, and then you've got the Frost Blast flying out from that. Sees the cheese. He's been zoned out by Lich, but at the same time, he's actually gotten a fair amount of golden experience. Since he's the Radiant offlaner, he enjoys a lot of advantages. Single Videos reveals himself. So Yal, he's going to be playing a bit more defensively now. Actually, it is nighttime, he might not have spotted him. And from the way Yal's playing, I don't think he actually knows. Spooky Scary Skeleton is waiting on the side. And Tickle Buddies, he's going to be coming in. He might actually be creeping in. Yeah, they might decide to dive this. He decides to do so. He actually reveals himself to the creep wave, so he didn't time that perfectly. Yal, he now knows something's fishy. Something's running in the state of Denmark, and he's going to be backing himself away. He's got boots, very early boots up on him. Choosing not to go for bottle. Never mind, he doesn't have his bottle, just been bottle crowing. And Brightside New Zealand, he's been fairly uncontested. He's got boots up as well, just to give him a lot more killing power. But he's been farming up an absolute storm, despite the fact that Yal actually has been out-CSing him. It's just that Yal has to play so passively so he doesn't get killed. So with the 2 kills going in Brightside's favor, they're not even in terms of CS. Each kill at this point is worth about 5 creeps, although 8 creeps for the first blood. Solomon is starting to set up for the arrow. Where's the arrow coming out from Spooky Scary Skeleton? Also disables the tower. Arrow flies out. Solomon wears off. Yal gets hit right square in the face. Soul Catcher lands on him. There's no way you're walking out of this one, buddy. And the Yellow white run gets smacked down by Brightside New Zealand. And he's off to a fantastic start. Tread's now up on Captain Taichu, so he's switching them to Edge to give himself as much damage as possible, especially with that maxed out backstab. And now the permanent invisibility. Faceless Void has to be very careful. But that being said, if Faceless Void is able to pick up level 6, he can actually turn around, go for a kill on the Riki Muru, especially since it looks like he is maxing out that time lock. And so since Chronosphere gives you true vision, true sight, sorry, of whatever target's caught inside. And so you can use the Chronosphere to be able to just bash him down. Ghost has to be very careful. This is the advantage of the Mirana Shadow Demon support duo, is you could kill any hero you catch out. So you don't even you never show yourself in lane, you just run around the map killing people. You could do the same thing with the Bane Elemental, but the disadvantage of the Bane is you can't go on multiple heroes, and so you could use one to juggle sleep. Haste Rim being picked up and activated by Brightside. He's running himself forward. We've got panic pings coming out from Yao. He's saying, get the hell back. You don't know me like that. Brightside New Zealand reveals himself, just swaggers forward and wipes his way through. Looks like Chronosphere wasn't even expanded because he wasn't able to hit level 6 in time. Captain Taichu dives and gets a kill. And he picks up a lot more regen. So he picks up another set of tangos and a clarity, ensuring he never has to leave the lane. And this Riki Muru, he's a taking time bomb. If he's able to get a defusal blade in the next, say, 7 or so minutes, he could end the game decisively on his own. He could catch out every hero on NLC and kill them before he could do anything. Riki Muru is one of those heroes that, against the good Riki, if you don't shut him down, he will destroy you. He is the snowballiest snowballer of all snowballs. So on a scale from 1 to snowball, he's pretty goddamn snowball, especially if he gets that defusal blade. Smoke screen and then an immediate purge, so you're stuck in there for 4 or 5 seconds while he's stabbing you the whole time. And the defusal blade is actually very cost efficient in terms of the damage it gives you, especially in a hero like Riki that gets double the benefit from the backstab. So he deals in mass. He's dealing with the maxed out backstab and with Tread and the Poor Man's Shield. He's dealing about 160 to 170 physical damage per right click, and he right clicks very quickly. And with the Orb of Venom, he's going to ensure that he gets an extra 2 hits in on you, especially since he got the backstab. Now he's actually choosing to max out Smoke Screen, and so bit of an interesting build coming up from Taichu. You usually see maxed out Blink Strike to give yourself a lot more ganky maneuverability, but Sentry Ward's been dropped, and so Siren could actually turn around for a gank attempt right now. Unfortunately, he's just got enough for the Chronosphere. If he chronos, but the Captain Taichu goes in on NLC Viking. He's able to stab him down. 200 range Time Walk coming up from Insano, who Time Walks higher when Taichu went low. Fortification now being forced by the Radiant side as the Death Prophet with the Exorcism. Jarl doing his thing. Despite his 2 deaths, Brightside New Zealand, Solid Siren coming off cooldown very shortly, using the Riptide to great effect over on Jarl. Death Prophet has very low armor, and Brightside New Zealand's able to capitalize it. If he's in tower range, you actually shouldn't ensnare him right now. If you ensnare him while he's in tower range, there we go. Jarl should be taking a fall. You can't overextend to get to Naga Siren for that reason. Ensnare doesn't do any damage, but it locks you in for a goddamn long time, and when you're called out like that, you're throwing your life away. He's now halfway towards a Sacred Relic. Do a great follow-up on him. Ghost, looks like the combo wasn't pulled off quite great effect, but with the clap, it should be able to bring him down. Gregor as well, without the Eclipse, he's going to be food. Spooky Scary Skeleton leaps himself forward. He unfortunately didn't time that perfectly. He should have waited a second and then thrown it out. You can usually tell the Shadow Demon, since he says 3 lines in that demonic language, so you can usually time it, so when he says the second line, then you throw out your arrow. That's usually the most reliable way to do it. I think it's Poppy that was saying that post-TI too, during one of the interviews. They might have actually changed that in the recent patch. I'm not 100% certain, but I'm fairly certain that if you listen closely, you could hear the lines. Yeah, in the mid lane, he actually chose to max out Witchcraft over Crib Swarm. This is desperation coming out from Yao, just giving as much movement speed as possible to be able to clear the distance. You always max out the Crib Swarm, especially since it's such a cost-efficient spell. Brightside New Zealand goes in defend tower. He should be able to get that right click in, so he's able to take that tower. No fortification online, but with Captain Taichu there with the smoke screen, or with the blink, never mind, doesn't even need a smoke. Just taking a quick drink of water. Face boots now up. And the Death Prophet with the Tower Gold. But Captain Taichu, Morbid Mask up on him. We could be seeing a Mask of Madness Riki. Captain Taichu could be going a bit yellow with that. Mask of Madness on Riki, not really the greatest item, but the caveat to that is when you're this far ahead, when you've got that many levels, and when the enemy teams constantly split off, the Mask of Madness is actually a very cost-efficient pickup. And so if you can make it work, especially since he's maxing out the smoke screen as well, it definitely can be quite an effective pickup. And looks like they're going in for a gank attempt. Caesar Cheese is also there, waiting in the wings. Blink, then there's the smoke. Gregor taking a lot of damage. Doesn't have the Eclipse now, so he doesn't even have that buffer. It lands over on Ghost. Ghost is going to be eating a few more right clicks from the backtrack. From the backstab. Fire Pounded, leading the charge. Where's the Wind Pound? There we go. Now Wind Walks. And a bit of Miss Micro coming up from Caesar Cheese. And NLC, Gregor should be able to live. Yow's also there, the bodyguard. So he takes a few tower hits. So it does with Primal Split completely wasted. But it does zone him out. It does zone out the Yell. Like Captain Taichu, he still wants more. Actually turns around, he should be the kill off Greg off the back line since Jarl doesn't have the Grave Silencer. Jarl also is going to be taking a fall as well if he's not too careful. And over in the bottom lane, Spooky Scary Skeleton and Tiggle Biddies, they're finding some farm now. Spooky Scary Skeleton, 3 points up in the air and Arcane Boot, so he's very farmed. And Tiggle Biddies, he wants level 6 so he can add that Demonic Post to his arsenal. Brightside New Zealand, 1k off that Sacred Relic, and he's going to be looking very scary. Especially since that's going to be something like a 14-minute Sacred Relic. And when Naga Siren is able to get 16-17 minute Radiance, it's too early. If he's able to pick it up before you could group up and push, he's able to do a lot. And this is a disadvantage of Lich, is he's fantastic in the lane, but outside lane he's not able to do much. And Captain Taichu pops Mom Spaghetti, and it's now up on him, and NLC Viking just gets torn to pieces. He hasn't been having a good game. That's another kill going in favor of Brightside New Zealand. He's able to get the assist goal from that, and maybe possibly the tower with the illusions up on him. The level 4 illusions, he actually should be juggling the aggro, so he's not tanking it. There we go, but he's got the healing self, and it looks like I'm having a bit of lag. He should be able to clear it up. And if he's able to get that last hit, that's almost a sacred. Never mind, he wasn't able to get it. But they should be able to take the tail one over in the bottom lane. And Insano caught out once again. Captain Taichu and Mom Spaghetti able to do a lot of work. Mask of Madness, usually not the greatest pickup in the Riki Maru, but that being said, if you're this far ahead, it's a great snowball because it's so cost efficient for the DPS it gives you. And Riki Maru, with the maxed out backstab, he hurts like hell with damage. And so the Mask of Madness, he's functioning very similar to the Faceless Void. He runs around, finds a hero on his own, pops Mom Spaghetti, uses the smoke screen to prevent him from fighting back, or similar to a Clinks, and he's just able to right-click you down. And so Captain Taichu, absolutely stellar performance coming out, and that surprised Riki Maru pickup. So eSnug, they've been practicing some fairly unconventional strats. Shadow Demon, he almost Tiggle Biddies, almost has his Demonic Purge, and that's going to help making the arrow a lot easier to set up. So Siren dropped very early on. They thought there was going to be a rotation. He decides to run mid, catches out Jarl's Walls Ghost, arrow should be flying. Spooky Scary Skeleton over on the Jarl. Unfortunately, it whiffs. It wasn't timed perfectly, but Jarl should be taking a fall with Taichu there with the blink online as well. Spooky Scary Skeleton unfortunately eats the Cryptones of the Vase. Chronosphere, fantastic Chronosphere in conjunction with the Eclipse, and then the Chainfrost flies out. Unfortunately, most unlucky Chainfrost bounce of my life. It flies out to Tiggle Biddies and finishes him off. Brightside New Zealand cannot afford to die. He's got the second relic up. But Captain Taichu, the big old Cash Pinata, gets smacked down, and he spills his candy all over. Looks like Luna got the kill. So a huge influx of gold to the Luna. Even though he doesn't have the greatest amount of farm, Luna probably going to be forced to go for a BKB this early on if he wants to be a stand ground. But that being said, picking a BKB against a Naga Siren is very dangerous, especially if you're the only hero with a BKB, since they can focus fire you down with the ensnare and then just right-click you to pieces. Shadow Shaman, level 6, and he's now picked up his Arcane Boots off the back of that tower as well as a kill exchange. And so he's having a fairly good start now. He hasn't been able to recover, despite the 2 deaths. Now that he's got the Mass Open Wards online, they can start grouping up for these pushes. Blink Dagger, however, is up on the Brewmaster. Sees the cheese, hasn't had the greatest Brooding Micro, but the fact that Panda's always in your face makes it very difficult for the enemy team to be able to effectively coordinate resistance against you once you initiate. And Naga Siren, 900 gold off the Radiance. Actually, about 800 gold now. He should be able to pick it up fairly soon. Jarl using that level 1 exorcism. Looks like I'm having a huge amount of lag. He still only has 3 points up in the Crypt Swarm. Good soul catcher up on Jarl. Spooky Scary Skeleton unfortunately leaps himself a bit too far forward. He could be taking it forward if he's not too careful. He does have to leap online, so he can use that to back himself out. Ghost expends the Master Wards. They should be able to take the Tattoo Tower if there's no defense. Arrow flies out, almost hits Jarl. If it hit Jarl, it would have actually been enough to kill him off, especially since it's all caught up in the soul catcher. And Jarl tanking the tower. They're doing everything they can to make sure the Master Wards are still alive. And eSnug, they decided to commit to this with the fortification. The heroes are moving up, but they're going to lose this tower regardless, since they can't kill the Master Wards in time, so it's a waste of a fortification. And Insano in the bottom lane, he's able to find his farm. Looks like Riki Maru actually able to kill Luna in the back line. And he's still in the hunt. Jarl has to be very careful. Smoke screen's coming up still now, 1 more second. And Riki Maru looks like he might be going for the Diffusal Blade. Oh, most likely going to be a Yasha, since he went for the Mask of Madness and the Orb of Venom. The unique attack modifiers do not stack. Diffusal Blade and Mask of Madness don't stack. It's one of the few interactions that don't stack, since the Desolator and the Mask of Madness still stacks, because you're applying the debuff. But since the Diffusal Blade counts as a unique attack modifier, because you're burning off 20 mana with the feedback, it doesn't stack the same way as a buff placer does, such as the Skadi or the Diffusal Blade. Captain Taichu picks up a casual TP. He's been having a great game. All he has to really do now is pick up a BKB, and they really can't do much. Although that being said, the Chronosphere and the Exorcism are available, and once Luna gets fairly farmed, looks like Luna's actually rushing towards a Butterfly. So very, very questionable build coming out from Gregor. If you had a BKB, you'd be able to group up as 5 and end the game very quickly. If you go for a Butterfly, by the time you finish it, the game is already going to be too far out of your control to be able to win. And in terms of net worth, 3 calls, Spooky Scary Skeleton, call up the Gravestones, but Insano, he tries to TP himself back out, might be able to make it out. Cloud comes out and finishes him off, so Syphilis finishes off at Insano. Yao eats an arrow to the face, so he takes an arrow to the knee. And Caesar Cheese gets a double kill off the back of that. They should be actually pressuring the Tower 2 tower. Tower 1 tower. Gregor is left alone. He just sets the Talisman of Evasion. It's a very inefficient pickup. Never do this in a public game. Or in any game, really. The Butterfly costs 6,000 gold. By the time you farm 6,000 gold, Brighton New Zealand's going to have his Radiance and then probably Boots of Travels. He's actually got his Radiance up right now. Caesar Cheese will probably have his Aghanim Scepter up. Unless you're able to get some fantastic farm. Unfortunately, they didn't time that perfectly, so that was a waste of a clap. As well as an arrow. But goes to that smoke screen. There really isn't anything he can do. He's going to get torn apart. The advantage of the Talisman of Evasion this early on, I suppose, is if you get caught out in the smoke screen with Captain Taichu, it gives you a bit more of a higher chance of staying alive. But the BKB is going to give you a lot more. Actually gets a fantastic 4-man corner spell. But where's the follow-up? Chain Frost now flies out. Fortunately, bounces to a creep once again. Finishes off Caesar Cheese. He's not able to get Clap off. Clap was on cooldown anyway, as well as the split, sorry. Brighton New Zealand with the Radiance burn damage. Cleans up Spooky Scary Skeleton. They're able to get a fantastic arrow. His arrow's been fairly spot on. With that Staff of Wizardry, it looks like he's going towards the 4 staff to build extra mobility for his team. Gregor has to be very careful now. Captain Touch is on the hump post. Mob Sketty doesn't even need the smoke screen. Just right clicks him down. And Gregor throws out a Lunar Beam and he gets torn to pieces. As the Stealth Assassin, styling on fools and taking names. Brighton New Zealand, 1.5k off the Boots of Travel, most likely going to be his next big pickup. You could be seeing a Drums of Endurance as well. Naga Siren build usually is, you usually pick up Drums before you go for Radiance, but since he was able to rush it so quickly, the early Radiance is doing a lot. And so, Radiance and then either Boots of Travels or Drums of Endurance or both, because you want to increase the efficiency of your illusions, and the best way to do that is by making them tanky and by making them fast. The faster your illusions move, the more Radiant split push damage you can do, since you can send an illusion to every single lane, and then send one into the jungle to stack and clear out creep waves using the Riptide as well. And there we go. We've got the triple Riptide over in the camps, although the other 2 camps have already been cleared out. So Brightside New Zealand getting his farm, and Tiggle Betty's hanging there, leeching EXP. He's level 8 on the Shadow on the 5 position Shadow Demon. He's actually he's only 1 level off Caesar Cheese, and Dark Prophet actually kills off Brightside New Zealand in the back. I'm not actually too sure where he killed him. It looks like over in the bottom line. And so he gets a huge influx of goals. Too busy watching the illusions for that one, my apologies. And with the Exorcism up, the level 2 Exorcism, they should be able to take the tier 1 over in the safe lane. And this is a very important tower, especially for Brightside, because he wants access to the jungle to be limited. If they're able to easily access the jungle, through there and through there, it makes it very difficult from the farm. But looks like the Dark Prophet going to be on mech duty, even though he did pick up a Void Stone. So a bit of an inefficient build order coming out from Yell. But they should be able to take that tier 2, that tier 1. Well, they're gonna be, it's going to be a trade, so safe lane tier 1 for safe lane tier 1. Just going to take a quick drink of water. Oh, the Shadow's up in the Shadow Demon. Captain Taichu. Will be interesting to see what item you choose to go for. Probably going to be the Yasha. Yeah, there we go. Yasha picked up some Mask Command is being used just to provide the movement speed. Since keep in mind, Riki Maru, item usage is no longer revealed so through permanent visibility. And so if you really want to be a dick, you go for some troll builds where you go for a Dagon, you can just Dagon people out of nowhere. Or go for a 4-staff, so when the support goes to stack Ancients, you 4-staff him in, the Ancients kill him. Since you can also smoke scream him once he's trapped in. So Mask Command is actually not a bad pickup, especially since there's no sentries up. Blink Cloud coming from Caesar Cheese, caught up the Grave Silence, so good reaction coming out from Yal, and turned into a chicken. There's now the Master Boards as well as the Shackle. And Ghost is able to get a solo kill over on Caesar Cheese. Good response coming out from the boys at NLC. But an arrow flies out from Spooky Scary Skeleton, catches him out. Caesar Cheese, unfortunately, his Panda play hasn't been the greatest. Great 3-man Chronosphere. There's the Chain Frost coming out. Does catch out Gregor as well. Actually bounces to the Disruption Illusion, and that saves them. Lich getting the most unluckiest Chain Frost of his life is not his game. Iron Jesus isn't happy with him. One more right click from Lich does clean up Tiggle Biddies. So they are able to kill everyone apart from Brightside and Taichu. So those are the 2 heroes that really matter. They're able to continue to do their thing. Brightside is actually able to take a tier 2 tower in the background. So he just cleans it up. He's continuing to farm. Good micro coming out from Brightside New Zealand. His macro play is usually very impressive. He knows what to do with all his minions. Boots of Travel's now up on him. Good luck trying to gank the Naga Siren. Every time you go for a gank on him on her, if she sees you, she pops a Song of the Siren and BOT's back home. So see ya, sucker. Especially since now it's a level 2 Song of the Siren, he's more than happy to expend it. If you could use the Song of the Siren and keep yourself alive, since Song of the Siren, the only thing that scales is the cooldown reduction. So it goes from 180 seconds to 60 seconds. So every level decreased by 60 seconds. And Gregor, over in this Luna, he's not doing anything for his team right now because he didn't go for a BKB. You pick an early mid-game carry like a Luna, you win the early mid-game. You don't dick around and try to drag it to the late game. Especially since the rest of your lineup isn't going to be able to bridge the gap for you. Since Luna, if he had a BKB, they could go for these 5-on-5 engagements, and they could win them quite decisively. Naga Siren is too squishy to really do much in the 5v5. He could set up ganks, and he could set up fights if he's able to get a good song off. But if he's not able to kill the Faceless Void can take out the Chronosphere. And Riki once again, Captain Taichu gets a solo kill over on Ghost. And with the Mask of Madness, almost his max movement speed. So very fast, very mobile. He's able to run in, stab you, get the hell out. Playing like a Viet Cong. Yao getting burned up by the Naga Siren illusions. Actually taking a fair amount of chip damage. Brighton New Zealand has a haste run. Arrow flies up from Sweety's guys and actually catches it as Yao thought the bad man TP Yao. And the Reptile cleans him up. Yao has been underperforming over in the Death Prophet. He even throws out the Undying Gift. The emoticon coming out from him. So his face after he gets ganked. The rage coming out from Ghost. And Captain Taichu, he's been styling on the boys from NLC. Riki Maru is a hero that he either does extremely well or he does absolutely terrible. Gregor forces out the Chronosphere. He's still burning up in the Immolate from the Fire Panda. And is saying they'll completely waste the Chronosphere. Gregor still could be taking a full. Caesar Cheese can decide to YOLO this and go for the kill. Since there's cooldowns will be wearing off very soon, he can decide to commit for this, decides not to. Blinks on there. Cyclones up Viking to ensure that he can't follow him down with the Frost Blast. But Primal Split for a Chronosphere. Faceless Void comes out ahead because Primal Split is a longer cooldown. But Insano is completely dependent on his Chronosphere right now. Without the Chronosphere, Void can't do anything. Whereas the Panda, with the Drunken Taste and with the Clap, can still do a fair amount, especially since he has a Blink Dagger to be initiated. Tickle Biddies farming very aggressively and far forward over in the top lane. This is the bottom lane. Brighton, he's actually caught out on his own. He has to use Siren, but he's caught out to sleep down. He goes able to get it off in time. Unfortunately, one more right click from Yao does bring him down. Good response coming out from NLC. And Brighton, New Zealand, he's not too happy with that. He had to get out of jail free card, and he wasted the ultimate as well. So his team no longer has that to be reliant to be able to set up these engagements. But the gold lead is going very far. And once again, Captain Taichu, he's going to calm the hell down. Diving enemy tier 3s. He's got the sign so that does reveal him. He also have to brace his TP and say, "I post his mob scare." And they should be able to bring down Captain Taichu. Use the smoke screen to buy as much distance as possible. And with the Mask of Madness movement speed, they actually no longer have any vision. There's no dust, no sentries on the support from NLC. And so the reason why Riki Maru is doing so well is there's no dust and no sentries as well. But when Riki Maru gets so far ahead, every time you go into place a sentry, you have to be very afraid. And you can't really rely on dust to kill the Riki Maru. Since dust is reactive, you want to be proactive against the Riki Maru. Since if you can just identify whichever one's carrying the dust, check their inventories, and then kill him first. So it looks like they're going for Roshan. And Captain Taichu's able to pick that up. They'll be able to give him a huge increase in viability since he's only taken one death this game. And so there's Riki Maru, he's the real MVP. Brighton New Zealand, he's buying all the time in the world for Brighton New Zealand to continue to farm. He's got a Yasha up now, so choosing to forego the Drums of Endurance. So going for a very early Mance style, so that also works very well. Since with the 462 movement speed, his illusions are incredibly efficient. He can send them, he's actually grouping them down one lane. So would actually like to see him split them up a bit more, maybe farm up the jungle, farm the enemy jungle. To ensure that his teammates are completely deprived of farm. But the advantage of this is it means that his teammates have two more lanes to farm. So the drawback of Naga Siren, similar to the Tinker, is they will take farm from every other hero. So you have to make sure that you pick heroes that are able to farm with, that don't require too much farm, that once they pick up a few core items, they're able to function very effectively. Brighton actually misses 2 CS there. A bit embarrassing for him. Getting a little bit sloppy. And Caesar Cheese points forward, catches out Yali, arrow flies out as well. Looks like Captain Touch actually going to bash him from the Granny Basher, forces out the Chain Frost. So a lot of hate up on him, and for good reason. Psychological aggro being joined. He's actually turning around on Viking. Gets caught up with an immediate chicken. Chronosphere is available, and that Ether Shock actually does a huge amount of damage with that Mask of Madness up. Turns around and goes, pops that smoke screen, actually now caught up with the dust. He doesn't really care if he dies though, because he's got that guy, Aegis the Immortal. Arrow whiffs the die too quickly. Aegis the Immortal being blown. Spooky Scary Skeleton actually leaps into the Eclipse. And Caesar Cheese should be able to bring him down, especially with a little bit of help from Taichu. And while that's happening, Brighton New Zealand takes your tower. And with 3 heroes down, he actually might be able to take a set of racks. He backs off now, wastes the Chronosphere over Captain Taichu. Captain Taichu is going to be trading his life though. So it's a good trade coming up from him. I think Faceless Void's got 1,000 gold from that. So a huge influx of gold going in his favor. And Brighton New Zealand doing a lot of damage. Actually should have prioritized the range racks, as the range racks is no form of regen. So if you want to slow siege, always go for the range racks, because it can't ever recover the damage that you deal to it. But no one's actually doing NLC is actually Vikings burning up. So it's getting too hot for the Lich. Yao now comes into the fray, but Brighton New Zealand used the Sun and Siren, TP's back home, says, "See ya, suckers." You can do the Ice taunt where you actually drop your items on the ground, pick them up, and then BOT back home. But he's a bit more well-mannered than that. Caesar Cheese, or maybe he's just not as cocky. Looks like he's farming towards the Aghanim Scepter. We'll be having it up fairly shortly. You want to have a very early Aghanim Scepter on the Brewmaster, because it gives you a huge influx, increase in your damage. That's when you power spike. Level 2 ultimate with the Aghanim Scepter, or level 3 if you get it very early on, but actually it looks like it could be going for a Shiva's Guard or a Sheepstick. I like this a lot. The drawback with the Aghanim Scepter is it's a timing specific item. You have to end the game fairly early on with it. Since the later the game goes, the Aghanim Scepter actually works against you, because it gives you 26 duration Primal Split at level 3, but it's 26 seconds where they can just focus down your Brewlings. especially later on in the game when your Broodlings since your Broodlings don't really become any more dangerous. Yule Scepter's up. Brewmaster doesn't have his split, doesn't have his collapse into the silence, so you can't give him a dose of the old syphilis. And Yao should be able to bring him down with one more right click. But he did commit an exorcism for that. Not really too sure that was worth it, because he's not able to take a tower. You can't really take a team fight now. Whereas Primal splits up, so the next time Caesar Cheese is alive, he says, alright guys, group up in 5 and take a fight. They can't do anything. He has, Death Prophet now has enough to go for his mech, but looks like he's picked a casual buckler for the armor. And no one on the NLC is building towards that mech anytime soon. Brighton New Zealand picks up the double damage rune. Almost has his Men's Star, 150 gold off from that. That's going to make a huge difference. Sanjin Yasha up in the Riki Mirror, so that gives an almost max movement speed. It's a very cost-efficient mid-game pickup, especially when you're snowballing. But otherwise, not the greatest. That being said, with Riki Mirror's fast attack speed, and since it's a 32% main, with the smoke screen, it's actually not too bad. So, Riki Mirror, one of the heroes where SNY isn't too shabby on. Since Manta Style, it's good on Riki, but at the same time, it's not that great, just because you can body block yourself with your illusions as a melee hero. So you usually only see Manta Style on melee heroes that have a way to be a closer distance, so for instance the Anti-Mage or the Chaos Knight with Reality Rift. Or a hero like a Tiny who's just fast and relies on it for the slow siege. But the Manta Style works very well against this particular matchup, because you want as many units as possible to eat up the Chain Frost charges, to eat up the Eclipse. And Tiggle Biddies, he's incredibly farm for a support hero. He's got more net worth than the other two supports by far. He's actually almost got as the same amount of net worth as Insano. The only reason why Insano does have more net worth is because he was able to get that kill over on Riki Mirror and end the spree. They're grouping up as 5 over in the mid lane, but while that happens, Brightside New Zealand playing some good old-fashioned split push. He's got the Manta Style up, so he pops the Manta Style, and he should be able to take your Rax. There's no fortification available, and they are not being able to TP respond in time. Brightside can actually take... never mind, the tattoos are up on the other lanes. But him and Captain Taichu, they can take these towers. They do lose. They're into the Rax are actually on the fire right now, so they have to TP back to in order to respond. Brightside New Zealand, he can pop a Song of Siren and then TP back, so the instant he TPs back in, he'll be the Song up the enemy team. If he actually gets a 5-man Song, they can win that fight. Mass Open World should be to clean them up. Brightside New Zealand, there we go. That's the Song combo. So he catches out their entire team. Now uses the illusions coming out of the mirror image, and Sano gets a Chronosphere only over Captain Taichu. Unfortunately, catches out Viking as well. They are able to kill off Brightside New Zealand with the Eclipse as well as the Exorcism. Exorcism is wearing off Taichu. He's out for blood. He wants to get a kill over on Yao. Yao is trying to juke himself out through the trees. Gets caught up the Blink Strike. First hit bash coming up from him. Captain Taichu being praying to RNGesus. Arrow flies out, hits him right in the face. That's a Soul Catcher lands. Yao has not been having a good game. And looks like things are getting a bit laggy on my end. Roshan is respawning in 5 minutes. They did take the tier 3 though, but they lost their own Rex for that. And Brightside New Zealand, he's more than happy to die. He does have buyback if they absolutely need it. And he's obscenely stacked. He's the fastest farming hero in the map at this point. There's Riki Mirror, he's got his core end. Would have liked to see an earlier BKB on him as opposed to the SNY. But he's been making it work because he's always going for split engagements. He's never jumping in their entire team. He's playing it very safe. He's checking them to make sure that they don't have any kind of invis detection. And the lack of centrals from NLC is really hurting them. Every time Riki Mirror gets the first hit in a fight, you're losing in that fight. You're going to be taking a lot of casualties. And because he doesn't really care if the Riki Mirror dies, if he's able to kill 2-3 heroes with them, he just straight up tanks the tattoo and is able to bring it down. And another tattoo in the mid lane also takes a fall, so the gold lead going further and further in eSnug's favor. 12,000 gold lead in their favor. It looks like a 14,000 EXP lead. The noose is tightening around NLC's neck, because it looks like they've only got one more ward up, and that's a fairly defensive ward. They've also got a very aggressive ward place. They're actually probably the worst place to be able to place this ward, because it doesn't really give you all too much vision. You want to place it probably around here, so you can at least give yourself a vision of this area for when you're trying to take that tattoo. But while I say that, Brightside New Zealand Song, the Siren catches out the entire enemy team for looking. No, never mind. Gregor, the back line, not called out. Arrow flies, unfortunately, not able to time that in time. And Insano can actually get a Chronosphere in the back line. Lich gets killed by the illusion in the background. Captain Taichu cleans up the Gregor. Primal Split now flies out Insano. He wants to get a Chronosphere, but he's not able to get it as the smoke screen comes out. They just leave him for Brightside. He's going to be a clean up. Looks like Spooky Scary Skeleton got that one. Spooky Scary Skeleton looks like he actually has a Maelstrom as well, so 4-staff. Yao 4-staffs as Yule Septons himself up into the area, but he's going to immediately die when he drops. Comes in, blinks out, he's showing off his new blink down. Captain Taichu, he's diving. Never mind, he decides maybe that's not the greatest idea. And they should be able to win the game off the back of that. As Brightside New Zealand, with the man style as well as the mirror images. Incredible amount of pushing power. And GG's been called 30 minutes into the game, so eSnug are able to take a very convincing game number 2. Game number 1 is very close. NLC could have won it if they were able to take a good fight, but game number 2, a lot of misplays coming out from NLC on the strategic as well as the tactical level. So that looks like it for tonight. I believe 5IP are playing Weed Unit. If not now, then in the next little while. So it'll be tuning in very quickly to be able to cast that. I'm going to stay tuned for more doing it, and I'll be right back for more.